Welcome to another episode of Read the Room, ladies and gentlemen. Nice gun you've got there.
I got some guns.
Let's see your other gun. Oh no, that one's injured.
That
No,
one's
you don't
kind of
want
hard to
to.
flex.
All right, well there you go. Uncle Rico, how are you, brother?
What's up?
Doing well, just living the dream out here in the monsoony Arizona.
Well, there you go. You're getting a little
Interesting.
water, right?
Yeah, it's there's quite the deluge lately, so deluge being the term for rain. Uh I had a thunder strike, no lie. All right, 10 feet from me.
Dang, that's
Like
cool.
other
You feel
side
it at
of
all?
like
Did you feel it?
outside. Yeah. I was fortunately inside and heard this lightning strike just boom boom and it just like shook the house and me and my lady finger were like that sounded really close and we look outside and there's this giant char mark. We're like, oh, and of course me being me, I'm like, is that really what that was? Like, was that there before? I gotta go check it out. She's like, the ground is electrified right now, don't go touch that. And I'm
Yeah.
like, as me, wouldn't you guys want to investigate that?
I
Like, I
would
feel like
investigate.
I'm kind of in the right.
By far, I would
Don
investigate.
Juan, how are you, brother?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I remember, in Colorado, we have the monsoon season, and it's funny when I talk to people, and it's funny that Arizona, it makes sense because, things go from one to the other.
Yes, it is.
So
Now,
watch out, the monsoons are coming.
Well, fortunately, it wasn't near a air conditioning unit or on one, and B, it wasn't near a propane tank. So
well, it
thank you
was.
for that.
Hey. And here's the weird thing, okay?
I want to know.
So the power gets knocked out. All right. And tell me if this has ever happened to you guys, where some of the appliances have a very low amount of energy. It was like the lightning electrified part of the property because the power was out in the whole area. But I was getting a very low amount of power to certain products in the house. So, like, I've got this cooling unit that was running. One of the lights, very dim. The fan would just slowly turn. So, this lightning bolt was actually electrifying my house. It was the
Yeah.
weirdest
Dang.
like certain lights wouldn't turn on,
Mhm.
like the oven and
Yep.
microwave and TV went off. One of the TVs worked, the other one didn't. Like it
Mhm.
was the weirdest thing.
Well, your house was surrounded by electrons, number one, more than
Mhm.
usual. And number two, the circuit boards are basically like Whiskey Tango Fox. What just happened? And they have to reset as well. Don, you can check me on that, but they
Thank you,
they got to
Bill
reset.
Nye.
Kitties are like,
Hey, Don, I gotta ask you
Basically, the
something.
electrons circled the property.
Bill Nye's a science guy.
Let me just put
He's not a
on my
real
white
science guy.
lab
He's a
coat real
fraud.
quick because I'm Mark and I know everything.
Well, actually, Don and I both actually had science class in science class.
Wow,
Growing up,
burn.
instead of just here's a beaker and you fill it up with green stuff, and then we move on and teach you English.
I mean,
But
my education was really good. I still was in that generation
yeah,
where they had advanced learning,
oh,
and I got
both
to
you and
dissect
Steph
rock
actually
and
got
stuff.
real education. Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's my last
Um,
name.
but Bill Nye,
education.
the science guy, is a total
Real.
fraud, just like our vice president. So just FYI.
Oh,
Um,
damn. Yeah, seriously. My
Quick
God.
question for Don Juan, real quick. It's a technical question. Sorry to have to ask you this on the show,
Okay.
but USB in the back of my Vizio, it says it has to be a FAT 32 or just a FAT USB, because I wanted to do what you did today and turn my screen around and do some little Kamala things like the stuff I sent you, but text me on that so that you can go use one of these instead of one of those, because I have like a zillion of them from trade shows, right? And some of them are like 10 years old. Anyway, welcome everybody to another episode of Read the Room. We've got a real interesting show to talk about today, don't we, kids? This is my Intensity
Nightmare.
as a Gift shirt, which typically explains me without me ever having to open my mouth. And we're in that intensity season right now. 95 days out from an election cycle, boys and girls. This is going to
90
be
days.
fun. It's going to be fun.
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun.
We have a musician in the group.
Yeah.
You guys saw what I sent you, right? The little list of things.
Oh yeah.
Today, to start the show off, we're not going to talk about Kamala first, although she'll be weaved in here. But as I've been suggesting on previous shows for about the last year and a half, the economy around the second going into the third quarter of an election year is going to suck balls. Well, guess what? It sucks because the unemployment rate went up to 4.3%. The jobs report in the middle of summer was 175,000 jobs, which I guarantee you in the month of August, when that's concluded, the July report, which just came out, will be downgraded easily 40,000 jobs. The only thing that keeps growing is the government sector and healthcare, which is quasi-government anyway. Everything else is going straight into the ground like a firing airplane, and it is not good. I mean, you guys, have older relatives, grandparents, right? For the most part, the bond is now at the bond rates are at 3.5%.
Yeah.
He's got that as 30% of their portfolio. They're looking at having to go to work for Walmart. Okay, at 75.
It makes me so sad to see all these hardworking Americans in that generation, and then they're shafted, and we literally failed them as a society because we have bought into a system that is broken. It's broken.
Unemployment's at 4.3. You know what? You know what earnings are, or what earnings were? Wages 3.6. Inflation's at 4.1.
Right.
Social Security does not keep up with inflation at all. Just saying. Just putting that out there in case you were wondering. Right.
Well, isn't it obsolete?
I want to dig into that, but you guys, thoughts about that? Go ahead, Stephanie. You were saying something.
Sorry, I didn't mean to overtalk. Well, isn't Social Security considered like obsolete in the context of the trajectory of, in like 2065? I don't know what the date was the last time I looked, but essentially it's
supposed to be out of money by 2050, allegedly. Right. But because it's an entitlement and because it's congressional math, they can just take money from elsewhere and also create debt and stick it into Social Security and go, oh no, Rick, it's fine. Don't worry about it, Rico. It'll be there for you.
So perhaps with that being said, and the way things are going right now, wouldn't you say that would speed up that date to sooner?
If, I think it's an artificial date to begin with, and so the answer is yes and yes.
So we need to fix it. We need to get this fixed.
Yes, we do.
So you mean to say that that Al Gore lockbox never happened?
24 years ago.
So gory.
Wow, I'm shocked. You know what's really disgusting? The one thing, I mean, you can argue politics about Biden and Harris and Trump and whatever, but I'm watching Fox News this morning. I'm watching CNN too when this news comes across. And the first thing that the Dems are doing, and all their supporters and all their economists are saying is, not our fault. Blame the Fed.
Trump tax cuts.
Blame the Fed. Yeah, and tax cuts.
That's
So-
bullshit.
It's always the blame game.
Yeah.
And you know, the people that buy into that, I'm really surprised that they haven't picked up on the blame game. But then at the same time, one of the feather flock together. So they are the people that do the blame game too. So what do we do with them?
I don't know, Uncle Rico. You're conspicuously quiet. Would you please chime in?
Oh, Rico.
Well,
You're
I would
busy,
say
it's not enough.
first and foremost, we should get them on some of those deportation airplanes and send them to their own island. Like, I've thought about this so many times, like with the Karens and the wokesters and the basically just people that you look at and you wouldn't want to go to dinner with them. Like, you just wouldn't want to hang out with them. Like, they're loud, they're obnoxious, they're opinionated, they can't read the room. All those things put into one. And I
Great
just want to
plug.
get the extremes on each side and a bunch of those people and just put them on an island.
Epstein
And
Island?
let them fend for themselves with their own
Sticks.
dire comments and their
And a knife.
own pollution that comes out of their mouth. Like, I want to see who could actually survive this scenario. Now, I know a few, probably the more right-leaning ones would probably survive longer, but you don't know that.
So I have an idea. With that, you can give them a choice of 8 items, from pantyhose to a knife to and they have to pick which ones are, the top 3 that they can take with them to survive. And there's no food, they got to go salvage it themselves and see what happens. That's the same activity I do with these babysitter classes that I do. So we'll see what happens.
right.
That would be entertaining. We could just put a little video camera on the island and watch it happen.
Well, let me clarify a couple of things, and
Oh, boy.
don't fall asleep when I tell you this, because
Oh,
it's
no.
kind of nauseating. Government, as we know, doesn't create wealth. It doesn't generate revenue, right? So government as a system, it has only an intake valve, right? It doesn't have an outflow valve that creates wealth. So you start with that economic principle. And so the intake valve are tax revenues.
Mm-hmm.
And so, different from how all 4 of us do our own home or business accounting, because we have deliverables and receivables, right?
Mm-hmm.
Input costs and revenue, output, etc. Government only has one way sign: input. And so they take that money and they look at all the responsibilities of government and they divide that money up. And so their debt is not the same as the debt of a company. It's not the same as the debt of a family budget, because it's not real.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they run out of revenue for this stream over here, and again, it's a closed system, so only a certain amount of tax revenue comes in a year, and they can only spend so much in a year without going into debt on paper. And so what they typically do will just move money or defaults or responsibilities to the upcoming continuing resolution in Congress, because they can't pass individual spending bills. I mean, I sent you guys, I believe, the fact that the Democrats cannot pass a defense bill.
No.
They plussed it up 27 billion to 938 billion dollars. And I want to remind everyone on our audience and on Read the Room that in 2005, that defense budget was just south of 400 billion.
Mm.
So they can't pass largest budget in the Congress, number one. So they're going to end up putting that stupid thing into a CR, which will just be a morass. And that's like me taking Rick's home budget, Steph's home budget, and Don Juan's home budget and just commingling all of them. And even though ours are real, you're still paying your bills a little bit differently than you normally would if you did it individually. And so sadly, we find Washington in that morass on a consistent basis because they run out of time and they do too much politicking. And I will tell you, I had a call this morning about the DHS appropriations bill, and they almost can't pass that one, Senate Dems, because it's going to hurt Harris even more than it's already going to hurt her when she loses anyway, knock wood. And it's also those political calculations. Very weird stuff, guys. Thoughts, ideas? Rico, you're cogitating something up there under that brim.
What were we talking about?
Oh dear.
I got lost in that. I'm sorry.
Coffee, lightning, the responsibility.
Well, I find it ridiculous that
I heard a
What?
lot about bills and military.
well, it's the defense bill.
And
They're having a hard
the
time.
responsibilities of government are
And all
different
over
and
the place.
unrealistic compared to ours. And so
Correct.
their budgeting is completely fantasy land.
Well, in terms of the way the government spends, I can say it's very much like Americans. Not to punch a hole in what you just said, in terms of our personal responsible people wouldn't do it that way. We'll just put it like that. But most people aren't responsible. Americans love being on credit. And that's why America is allowed to exist, because nobody's going to call out our bills. Because that means we go to war. Like, the second somebody wants to call out our bills, we go, you're going to have to come get it. And that's not going to go over well for that bill collector. So there's no loan shark in the world that can collect on us. So we
what we need?
kind of in a situation where we can just keep going. Just like,
I have an idea.
Take here, take there, take everywhere. And, these people are idiots. Like, people just think money grows on trees. Like, it's amazing when I hear people talk about social services, this and that, how we need this, how we need that, we need to help that person, this person, that. I'm like, do you understand that money does not grow on trees? Like, we have a finite amount of money, and it is stacking up. So every time you vote for somebody that just spends willy-nilly, and I mean, every administration does it. So I don't know what it will take for them to.
I know what it'll take.
It'll never happen because it's political.
Well, I do too. I do too, Steph.
It'll never happen.
Are you ready for it? I don't think you're ready for what I'm going to say.
Oh boy.
If you listen to Kamala Harris, everybody ends up in the same place.
Thank you.
Right. What were you going to say?
I feel like we just need the year of the Shemitah.
Oh my God.
For those in the audience and in Read the Room that don't know what the hell that is.
You don't know what that is? It's a Jewish tradition where they wipe debts clean after 70 years or so.
All right.
And starting fresh.
Oh, I
calling a Shemitah. And then for America, we need a Shemitah.
I thought that was a reference to the movie Idiocracy, so I was shaking my head like an idiot.
No,
I
think
I know that.
I'm glad I threw you for a loop.
Heard that before.
You've heard it.
Hell yeah.
I haven't. No, I would.
There you go. Go look it up.
Wipe that clean willy-nilly.
So we've got the lousy jobs report. That's going to negatively impact what Bidenomics. I mean, Harris now owns Bidenomics lock, stock, and barrel, which is fucking hilarious, right? Can't run away from it. It's like sticky glue and molasses together. She can run, but she can't hide. and we got 94 days to put lipstick on this pig, or at least the Democrats do. But the pig's going to get slaughtered with or without the lipstick. And so I am particularly interested, since the topic of the show is Biden passes the torch, how much of that torch is going to singe and burn her hair off, along with her fingertips when she's, catching
I feel
everything
like it's gonna be an
she does,
inferno.
she's proposing. It's hilarious.
It's an inferno. It'll
It's gonna be
all
great.
just spiral down into the abyss because they have nothing going for them. We already know that. She has nothing going for her.
Yeah, I'd have to
The
say,
two documents that I sent you, that show all these issues that she
Yes.
supported.
Yeah, she's
Cannot
just
run
a
away from any of that shit.
she's a bought and paid for minion for who knows who it is, but she's just always bought and paid for. So that's how she votes, and she doesn't give a shit about the Democrats. She doesn't give a shit about the Republicans. She cares about the bottom line, and it's odd how she's Indian, and that's not talked about.
Unless you're Donald Trump
that
of the
she's
National
black,
Association of
but
Black
she's
Journalists
Indian.
days ago.
so is she Senator Warren like Indian, or is she? I'm confused. She's
No, she's
AI,
real.
she's
Jamaican
AI.
and Asian.
She's
Yeah.
full. She's a full on from India. Her dad.
No.
She comes from socialist Marxists that taught at UCal Berkeley. So she was raised in that environment, and her parents divorced when she was like 7, and she went to live with her mom. And it's always interesting when I hear her talk about God. She's like, and God will watch over this, and so on and so forth. But she was raised Hindu, so I don't know if somewhere along the line she converted. I doubt that. I think it's just another face that she puts on because she is a
She can lie to us.
political chameleon, which is why she's going to have difficulties because she's always constantly flip-flopping. But I'm going to let Don go. I've got plenty of interesting artifacts about Miss Harris.
Oh, I can't wait to hear. I want to know.
Yeah, I mean, I'd just like to say at first, in defense of the vice president, that any references to lipstick on a pig, to me, is like a racist dog whistle. So I would like for Mark to apologize to Kamala Harris for that, because I just think that that was uncalled for. That was below the belt.
Yeah.
She is clearly not a pig. I'm not sure what she really is, but she's not that. So putting lipstick on any part of her anatomy is out of bounds. I just can't accept that.
There's Kamala Harris right there.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, there's Biden.
So
what did I have? I had something.
No apology will be forthcoming, by the way.
Okay, all right.
Let's hop in the time machine, kids, and let's go back in time, and let's really unpack the humble beginnings of Miss Harris.
Okay, Mr. Peabody, let's do it.
So, here's another fun fact that nobody talks about. She went to school in Canada. She's practically Canadian.
That should be a disqualifier, just by in and of itself.
She went to the next best liberal stronghold or socialist Marxist stronghold and went to Canada and was raised there. Normal kid, lived in a upper echelon. She was she was well off enough. The kids are quoted saying that they were more focused on who had the best Jordache jeans than anything. But then something interesting happened. She decided that she was going to go to Chocolate City, as it's so fondly known, DC, and goes to Howard, a historically black college in HBCU. And there she gets in touch with her feminist agitator roots and begins her sort of activist um, agenda. She starts flirting with that and so on and so forth. We like to joke about her being the side piece of Montel, but let's talk about whose side piece she was first. Bingo, bango, bongo. And Mark, who might that be?
Willie Brown, the former mayor of San Francisco and former Speaker of the House.
Willie
Good
Chicken
dude,
Willie
by the
Brown,
way.
the first
Good
and
dude, by the way.
only Slick Willie Brown. As said by Clinton, Bill Clinton said he's the
Right.
real Slick Willie.
Correct.
So 20-something-year-old Kamala decided to launch herself by dating the 60-something-year-old
A
Willie
married 60-something.
the
Right.
married 60-something-year-old Willie Brown.
What did I do with that?
And so, as I fumble on words, this is where she started.
You're all good.
She started, working her way up the pole and latches on to this guy who basically starts giving her all these paid positions within
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco. She starts rubbing elbows with everybody. Like, he immediately takes her out. And I'm looking at young Kamala and I'm going, okay, I can see it. I could see how she could touch some cinches. She's a very sturdily built young lady, if you catch my drift.
Sturdily
Oh
built.
boy.
Yeah.
I'm not
Wah,
touching that.
wah. Yeah. So I'm sure that
Don's gonna want an apology from you, Rick.
Exactly.
I'm sure Willie was having plenty of motorboat sessions. We'll just put it like that. And
Oh
Yep.
my god, bro.
hey, Don Juan just made the face. He just acted it out. Come on. Yeah, Don, I caught you, buddy. Busted. But let's just fast forward, okay? Because we all know the story from here. A typical politician. She starts working her way up, her way up, her way up. And every step of the way, she is trying to play both sides. She's trying to pacifies the ultra left in San Francisco while being top cop, being the tough
Right.
cop. And this is where we are today. I have I wish the RNC would just watch this and listen to me, because I've got the best tool for winning, the best campaign. Okay.
Yes.
This
Please
is
tell me.
all you need. This is all you need. Okay. It's a quick 30-second, 15-second video of you take a position that Kamala has done in her career where she picks one thing and picks the other. And then you give one of her classic befuddle word salads and her cackling at the end.
Oh, you mean like
Once
last
you
night
can-
at Andrews Air Force Base?
Yep. You want to confuse and annoy so that every single person hears that cackle and they can't get it out of their head. Like, it's like a show tune that you
I
just
can't even watch
can't
it.
get rid of. And you have to have the comment and the cackle at the end, and that has to be everything. What, you think you fell out of a coconut tree? At the end of this flip flop. So people are just like, gosh damn it, I hate these ads. I hate them. I hate them. And they start going, do I want to see that? Is that what I really want to see? And people in the middle are going to naturally be like, I want to tune that out. Like, I can't. So there you go.
That's where you're going. So it's interesting that you
Right.
say that. So you look at imagery of her over the years and so forth and so on, and she starts out with like short '80s hair, 1985, college, etc. Then you see her in pictures with her family. She has a dot on her forehead, and she's with her Indian family, and rightly so, and partially Jamaican. Her grandfather, or I think it was her great grandfather, was the largest slave owner in Jamaica. So that'll be interesting to try and push down into Middle Earth so it's never seen. And then you watch her transform from, the days of, well, basically then. There's Willie, there's Mr. W right there, and Carmela, and at the end of the day, I mean, she does a full chameleon, and she turns into a donor's candidate from literally right after that point up through being elected attorney general in 2010,
She
and then
literally,
Senate seat.
I don't even know how she's so captivating to these people to get to that point. Like, there's nothing.
Well,
because
may I
Nothing
be candid?
What?
May I be
I-
candid?
Oh,
yeah,
well,
be candid,
sure.
please.
Yeah, it's called a vagina. Okay.
Oh dear.
If she didn't have one, she'd be serving eggs and fucking hash browns at Waffle House because she
Like,
couldn't pass her bar exam three times. Three
This-
times.
yeah. And you talk about the important thing right here is she ran on in 2020 the for the people type of slogan. Like she was going to be some sort of populist candidate when she is the epitome of top 1% donor class politician. Like while she was in San Francisco, keep in mind, there was a scandal going around her office having to do with some campaign finance legalities and sexual harassment. Shocker.
Say it ain't so, Rick.
And guess what happened? She took the position to not only defend the people who were accused of such, but it also just happened to benefit her beautiful donor, George Soros. So
I
he's
knew it.
been laying these traps for quite some time. What's the other guy's name? Steve Berkowitz, or it's like two of her big donors. I can't remember, but
Ron Burkle.
Rob Burkle.
Mhm.
maybe that's it. But
That's about
the
right.
point of it is that she protected her donors. She did what politicians do, and people in today's climate are so over politicians.
Yep.
They're identifying more with me than with them. Like I've always had a mistrust, a distrust of politicians on both sides.
Same.
I just think that one tends to be a little bit more candid and a little bit more upfront. Like
Yeah.
there's a difference with Republicans and Democrats. Like you may not like Republicans, but they're going to tell you what they're going to do. Like they're pretty upfront. Like
For the
there's
most
backdoor
part.
dealings and stuff like that, but Republicans, for the most part, they'll tell you what they're going to do up front and be damned if you don't like it because they're the adults in the room and it's what you need to hear. You're not going to like it, but this is what we're going to do. The Democrats, on the other hand, are very much flip floppy, will say one thing, do another. And that's just what I've seen in my years watching politics is each side has candidates that flip flop. There's always room for change, but real change and change for this and the power structure are two very different things.
Steph, what is your view of a female candidate for president who has risen the way Harris has, who has almost zero leadership skills and leadership driven results, more importantly, on her resume? How do you feel about that as a woman? And should someone, because of those traits, just simply be rewarded with the most powerful office in the world? And if not, why not?
Well, as of right now, I'm completely grotesque by her just overall life / personality. Like, she's just not an attractive person. Like, I don't understand what people really see in her besides, what you had mentioned previously. And as of right now, I just kind of feel that American spirit dwindle, because that's not excellence and that's not what we stand for as a society. And I don't want her representing anything in government. And if she wanted to go work for corporate America, fine, let it happen. But that's not how our politics work in America. And we need to stand up and say, no, this is not who we choose. We want people with integrity that will go ahead and move forward with what the will of the people are. We elect them. They are elected politicians to represent the people, not corporations, not special interests, not these global tyrannists. I'm quite frustrated, to be honest, that we've gotten to this point. But at the same time, maybe we did need to get to this point for other people to be like, whoa, wait. Who is this? That is our candidate? How did she get here?
Right.
Why am I voting for this side? Well, Trump has results. Granted, I may not like his personality. I'm not voting for a personality. I'm voting for a person that will go in and get the job done.
This is such a key point. And it's such an easy way for people to out themselves, because this is what the election is about. People that vote on emotion and people that vote on policy. And that thing that I was saying earlier about the people that you don't want coming to your dinners are the people that vote with emotion. Period. And this, I mean, let's be honest. If weak men, soy boys, and women didn't exist, they wouldn't have a chance in hell. Like, it's just,
soy boys.
We don't like soy boys on Read the Room.
We don't have no soy.
It's true. It's funny that you say that she's not an attractive person, Steph, because President Obama once famously called her the most attractive person in the Senate. And then he doubled down on it in a speech later after making.
Well, I mean, compared to Michelle, right?
Well, that's not surprising. You want to know why?
What, bro?
So, question for Don Juan. Don Juan, where are your ancestors from?
Arkansas and Oklahoma.
And where did they come from prior to that?
I know where you're going. I'm going to assume, because of my 23andMe results, that they come largely from Africa.
Okay. So, do you consider an Indian from Asia and a Jamaican with less than 20% blood quantum of someone that may or may not have come from Africa a black person?
I mean, seriously, that's a difficult question, and I never liked the generalized label, and I don't like the segregation of identities as far as I'm concerned, particularly in the context of what happens here. To me, you're either American and you're dedicated to America,
yes,
right,
or you're not. Now, to the point of her lineage and all that other stuff, and this is where the Democrats, to me, ultimately will destroy themselves. It is this thing of identity. And then it gets to the ridiculous extremes of Kamala Harris, who is black / Asian American, Pacific, whatever, Islander, and then she's also Indian. And it's like, okay, enough already.
Already.
What voters are going to want to know is she an American? Is she of American values?
Right.
And not representative of the pro-Palestinian, pro-abortion, pro-whatever. interests that are out there. But again, the Democrats, they're going to play the same game. They're just going to put Harris in this place.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to argue about, it's going to be wonderful. It's going to be another great first, and we're going to break down many more barriers as if policy never matters.
I am only interested in genealogy, not the politics of it, right at the moment, for the purpose of the question. So that's my lineage. And starting with number 2, everyone else below that, including number 2, I'm not any of those people. I relate to the larger number, England, Wales, and Northwestern Europe, because a disproportionate number of my ancestors came there. I'm an American with specific DNA lineage in there. So the politics and the myth of we've managed to twist and turn and manipulate.
Well, they use it. They use it to con people.
Right. With a certain amount of melanin is there for a black person, and she's not. It's just basically a con.
You got
so
Big
thank you
Daddy
for asking.
Trump just lobbing softballs to him like he did the other day. I mean,
Warren?
God, that was a fucking train wreck.
What?
What's her name? Warren? She's the Indian?
The black journalists.
Yeah, Elizabeth Warren. Yeah.
She was a Native American, supposed
to be. That interview. I'm sorry. Sorry, Rick. I didn't hear you there for a second. Yeah, that interview was a joke. Yeah,
that was so bad. And, it's one of the reasons that I think that her sugar high is going to last a little bit longer. Like she's a for real candidate because there's so many emotional people, because we have watched them hide candidates before. Now, granted, there was COVID, but the longer they can keep her on ice, the better. And I'm not saying that she's gonna win. I'm just saying that people can't take her for a fool, because she has navigated a political climate. And you see something like Trump, which on one hand was smart because he started making the headlines about him again, whether they be good or bad. But that Trump, that was 2020 Trump. And he just reminded everybody in the middle that's undecided, I'm still that guy. And the ones that lean more to disliking him were just reminded of old Donald Trump.
I'm going to analyze that in a second, but Don, go ahead. What were you going to say about it?
Not good scenario. But every time I think that Kamala is getting steam, I'm also reminded of her track record and how once that gets out, it's going to be tough. And then I remember how uncool she is.
Yeah, she's a dork.
Oh, and not only that, but culturally, the people that support her are not cool. When they came out, and I turn on YouTube, and what do I see front and center? White dudes for Kamala.
Right.
White dudes and drag queens. Right. You know who she is? She's Elaine in Seinfeld doing the stupid dance where she kicks her leg up backwards. That's Kamala Harris right there.
She's doing that. Cool. She's doing Veep. She's doing the whole word salad Olympics. But
yeah, she's Selena Meyer. That's for sure.
It's just when you thought she couldn't get any cringier, she has a segment called White Dudes for Kamala. And it's all of the whiniest.
Oh my God, it was horrible.
Boy slash emotional.
They're the soy boys.
Artists, emotional. They're actors. Like,
I mean,
if
Sean
there's
Astin,
anybody who's more emotional than an actor as a male, I don't know.
Yeah. Sean Astin. I mean, Patty Duke's son.
You see the Lance Basses and the guy from Billy Madison. Like, it was just a who's who of people that nobody knows unless you were born after the year 19. If you were born before 1983, 85, you knew those people.
Well,
Yeah.
you know
Everybody
Jeff
after
Bezos,
that
but he's like
is
really
like,
old.
who the hell are these people? Like,
Yeah.
how am I going to identify with
Yeah.
a 50-year-old rich white actor? Like,
Mm.
nobody. Kids are
Nobody.
going to look at that and go,
No.
like,
And that's what I said last time.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to relate to a 60-year-old female vice president who's 20 years old on TikTok or Snapchat. Ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
So,
I was gonna-
Rick, I was gonna just really quickly analyze what you said. How think about the last time you flew in an airplane, right? And you're descending and you're below 10,000 feet, and then you're below 5,000 feet, and you go, oh look, it's my house, right? As you go by, and you're below 3,000 feet, you're still floating. So this is her honeymoon period. She's still floating now through Labor Day, because the
Yep.
convention is the 19th. It starts the 19th, and it lasts for 3.5 days, right? Regardless of what happens and all the interim things that happen over the course of the next 17 days, right? In the economy and the world, et cetera, et cetera. She's still going to be floating. So the honeymoon period is going to last through Labor Day. But like that airplane that's at 2,000, then 700 feet, then 200 feet, and you think you're going to have a nice two-wheel, then front wheel, three-wheel landing, that's what happens. That's what's going to happen with her, because reality is going to set in. And if you guys just looked even remotely at what I sent you this morning,
I feel like she should go to jail.
on all these issues, the border, defunding the police,
How about we
illegal
do it?
aliens voting, the most liberal senator, breaking huge spending bills, being the tying vote for the Inflation Reduction Act, saying terrorists should be allowed to vote, wants to limit red meat consumption, raise money for bail rioters, co-sponsored the Green New Deal, ban on private health insurance, compared ICE to the KKK, banned fracking, which she's now flip-flopped on, by the way, lied to the public about Biden's decline, and would ban gas-powered cars and shut down even more pipelines than
Here's the
Keystone.
thing.
Can't handle it. Can't do it. That's going to sink in through September, through October, and by October, a month out from the election, she's a dead duck. 2 to 3 point victory by Trump. It's going to be a close race.
I think that all those issues, because I read through everything you provided, and just did a little research to confirm everything. I mean, at some point she's going to be asked questions about these things, and even more recently about her changes or flip flopping on these issues, particularly with fracking, and in a state like Pennsylvania, when you do something that nakedly, cynically political, I don't think you can get away with it.
You can't.
The liberal media may try to cover it up a little bit, but that's going to hit home in Pennsylvania. Look, voters are not. I still believe that organically, most people, when they consider politics, go out of their own experiences, their own common sense. So all the crap that's fed to them by politicians and consultants and whatever, or pundits in the media, they tend to say, okay, that's interesting, but I know better. So when she wants to change on it, people remember, and people are going to judge her based on what she said. Because, oh, by the way, the Democrats always say, if somebody tells you something, believe them. So that applies. They don't get to defy that political gravity. They're the same as everybody else. But quickly with Rick and on the point of Trump, I did, because when I saw the announcement that Trump was going to speak before the National Association of Black Journalists, I got my popcorn ready. I knew what this was going to be. And honestly, my feeling about it, and I spoke with a number of my friends recently about it, was great. It was pure Trump. And he wasn't afraid because
No.
what they want you to do is come in there and cringe and kind of,
Yeah.
take a step back and appreciate their position because, we're going to nail you as being a racist. Trump didn't care. Not only did he not care, he threw it back in their faces and said, in effect, Kamala Harris is the one that's having a difficult time with being black, not me in terms of her being black. So
Correct.
to go in and question her race and sense of ethnicity, I thought was a masterstroke because there are people out there who I think not so much of a ball, but just sick of the argument. And they're sick of being told, okay, this person is this identity, therefore they're this, and you should vote for them. I think people are far more discerning than that. So I thought, again, for Trump to come out and just say, nope, she's this, you know it, we all know it, and that's all I'm saying on it. So they didn't get what they thought. They wanted, like I said, they wanted to humble him. They wanted to get a concession from him, and he gave them none of that. It was a beautiful thing.
No, I thought it was great because it was let Trump be Trump. And
Yep.
so, his consultants, if you will, know that they aren't going to change him into something, right? I mean,
You're right.
Mitt Romney had Obama on the
Yes, he
fucking
did.
carpet
Yep.
his back in that debate in Denver in 2012. And then Mitt Romney listened to his stupid sons instead of I know his consultants, I'll just leave it at that, who are like, look, just keep hammering him this way. And he turned into a little kitty. A little
Mm-hmm.
kitty by the
Yeah.
time they got to Kentucky for the next debate. Because I could hear Axelrod on the plane screaming at Obama going, we're losing, right? He fucking crushed him in that debate. Made him look like an idiot because Obama's a goddamn amateur. Rick, go ahead, buddy.
And
Hey, can I ask you a question before you say something?
Mm.
Think about this. I want to know why it's 3-on-3 basketball in the Olympics. Answer that when you feel like it.
What are the Olympics? Thank you for that. What I was gonna say, if I can remember now, because I'm so frustrated at the idea of 3-on-3 basketball. It's like the Hoop It Up tournaments I used to play in back in like middle school and high school. But the Trump thing, while it's getting some momentary bad press, you guys are right. I think it's one of those moments that we're going to look back on as a totality of Trump being willing to go into areas that he is not liked and be unabashed, unafraid. And I guarantee there are going to be political candidates that will use that methodology in 10, 15, 20 years. They're going to look back on that. That'll be one of the documentaries that we see in like 30, 40 years where they look back on campaigns and they talk about how Trump was willing to go into the line of fire, into the lion's den. Like everybody knew what he was walking into. Of course, there was going to be an uppity journalist there. Like it was bound to happen. Yeah, 2 of them. And he did what Trump. He reminded people, look, you don't need to like me, but I am going to defend what I care about. And you can hate Trump as much as you want, but he loves America.
Yes, that's the difference.
Himself, the way he defends America, I feel much safer knowing that it's in Trump's hands because he will defend America like he defends his own.
Well, that was what I was going to ask you as an independent. How do you feel about him? You just answered my question.
Yeah, I mean, when I first saw it, I'm not going to lie, I was like, oh my God, because I would have gotten to the same thing that he did. I would have just answered it in different ways. Like Trump doesn't have that charisma because he's such an egomaniac that he can't craft things to throw it back on people.
Mhm.
Like, there were so many questions that were coming at him about the DEI, like when he had the DEI exchange, and I would have went, well, is she not a DEI hire? Like, you have touted, you have championed DEI.
Joe
You have
Biden said
brought
it.
it into the American lexicon. Like, you are right now trying to put negative stigma on it by asking
Right.
me the question that way. Like, shouldn't you be
Right.
celebrating the fact that you have a DEI candidate, that what you've been championing is working? And instead, you're asking me to say that
Right.
that she is, but in a negative tone. Like,
Well, that's a bunch of
and then
bullshit
you
gotcha
put them in
questions.
these sort of psychological jujitsu pretzels,
Hey,
and you
me
make
too.
them look like ass
Well, we're
hats.
getting
And
into
that's
your
how
area.
I would have done it. But
Yeah.
Trump, and he's like, yeah, you're 35 minutes late. So and he kept going back. I can't hear you. This equipment's so shoddy. Like, I was like, oh my god, you're so
No, he's great.
Trump-y.
I mean, he is
You're
a
so
lot like
petty,
Richard. He's a lot
which
like
is
Richard Nixon.
which is
Okay.
Oh, dang.
the danger. And these are the two things, okay, for each candidate. And then I'm going to pass the ball. All right. For
Do
Trump.
this again. Do
Yep.
that again. Love it when you do that.
Basketball.
For Trump. All right.
Oh,
Anytime you can get him, poke him, and prod him to where he has a visceral, emotional reaction, he's going to be that Trump that
Mhm.
people hate. Like, he's going to be that. So if you can dig into him, do exactly what that journalist did. Like, she accomplished what she wanted to. She made Trump look like an asshole. And so she won that. In my opinion, she won that. But people can look at it. We can argue that another point. But I think that it doesn't help when Trump goes back to his pettiness, because it's entertaining. But personally, I'm over the pettiness stuff. Like, I just want to get through with it. Kamala, you have to get Kamala comfortable. You have to get her, because right now she has sidelined the laugh. She has been told, it has been beaten into her skull. Do not laugh. Do not do that cackle. You have to look. You have to look strong. You have to look powerful. You can't look like this giggly mamala that you've been. We have to rebrand you as a strong, powerful woman.
With the exception of the last three
cannot-
speeches she gave.
it's not
Yep.
going to do any good
But
at this
if you
point.
get
She's
Kamala
already doing it.
comfortable, you get her comfortable where she can
All right.
do her awkward laugh when she doesn't have the answer right away, then
Right.
that will remind the American people just of
Who
what
she is.
Her
She's
defense
just
mechanism.
a giggling nexus of nothing.
Okay, so here's why I say Nixon. Nixon was a leader, whether you like him or not, and he learned leadership under a fantastic general, his boss, Eisenhower, for 2 terms, right? Confronted China, went to China. Confronted political enemies, both in the 68 campaign, the 72 campaign, and in between, etc., right? I've told you this before. While the 68 convention in Chicago for the Democrats was a disaster because my sisters were watching their peers being beaten up by cops on television when I was a little nipper, I was 10. That had never been seen before on national television, brought into people's homes. 3 days after the convention, Nixon went and held a parade around Michigan Avenue in fucking Chicago and went like that to the Democrats, and America coalesced around him, right? Trump is absolutely going there. I already know that for a fact. It'll likely be after the convention. They may go before if they decide based on issues surrounding that and usurp them. But my gut tells me it'll be afterward to coalesce what craziness you're going to see there. And my friend Dave Bossie and Corey Lewandowski wrote the book 7 years ago, Let Trump Be Trump, right? And that's what they're continuing to do. He's maturing to some extent on how outward bound he gets with his personal quotes and things of that nature. But his interview he did with Bartiromo yesterday was terrific. I've only seen about half of it so far. And the take I have on the black journalism thing is he went into Lion's Den, didn't put up with their bullshit questions, their gotcha questions, answered them, i.e., let Trump be Trump. He's going to continue to do that. And the more, again, from the list I sent you, that Americans see that she flip-flopped on fracking, she's flip-flopped on the border, that great cartoon that I sent you of her with the little clicking device from Men in Black. I was never the border czar, right?
She didn't just flip flop on fracking. She flip flop
yesterday.
Yeah,
she always
flip flop because she famously said in the 1920 debates that absolutely not. There is no fracking. Once she became the vice president, she said there's absolutely no way Joe Biden is banning fracking. That will not happen. And then what happened?
Yeah, because of all the freaking money.
They canceled fracking. And she was trying to nudge Shapiro in the right direction by saying, we'll put fracking back on the table. It didn't work.
I think it's going to be Tim Walz or Shapiro.
Wow.
Leaning towards Tim Walz now because Shapiro, again, I've already run through my reasons why I don't think it'll be him. But they have to keep Minnesota, and the blue wall has definitely got cracks in it.
Well, that will be a kind of a telltale about what's really going on in terms of these battleground states. If they go for Walz, that's a clear indication that they feel they're weak in most of those states, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and so on, and Wisconsin. Because now we got to shore up Minnesota. I mean, a Democrat having to. My God, Walter Mondale won Minnesota for crying out loud. So that would be really indicative of a situation that they're in. But I want to go back to what Rick was talking about in regards to Trump. And
let me make a comment. I think that means if they pick Walz, that they already know they're fucking going to lose. But
I agree. Yeah. So with regards to Trump, and anybody that knows me, I've been on this show a number of times and kind of expressed that opinion. My doubts about Trump, at times, certainly in the recent past, my dislike for the way he's done things. But I said last week, and I hold firm to it now, I'm embracing what Trump is. I'm just not going to get into. I'm not going to worry about what he's going to say. I'm not going to, because at the end of the day, and this is something I didn't really understand in 2016. Voters who will matter, get it. I think we can all, and I've done it too, and I still tend to do it. Overthink this. I think organically people respond to things that kind of reinforce things that they like, and Trump does it. I'll tell you, and again, this is all anecdotal. Friends of mine that are black, mostly Democrats, but some Republicans. I've talked to everybody in the past few days or whatever about this speech before the NABJ or whatever. NABJ. Okay, never mind. I'm not going down that road. Anyway.
Yeah, it is NABJ.
So it's the consensus has been, you know what? Even if it said they didn't like Trump, it's like, yeah, but the guy came out and he just spoke his mind. He just, and some people didn't even like it. They didn't like it, they didn't like the affront, but they respected it. At the end of the day, that's the best you can hope. Because if you try it the other way, where you're trying to ameliorate, concerns or try to get, it never works. It will crush you.
Well, that's what Ricky was saying.
Yeah.
So
I got a question
great.
for Steph.
Okay.
Steph, you want to hop in? Go ahead.
Well, I wanted to say that I find it unfair with the amount of attacks Trump has received over the years. And compared to his good works, there's a disconnect with, the people that have tried to make him look a certain way. And for the people that have listened, and for some people that just have a problem with his character, I find that they maybe need to have a refreshed perspective and look at his just look at what he's done for our country, and just renew their thought process in this matter of time, because you can't always go back in the past of what they said back then and keep that, on your mind as a reason to not vote for him now. That it's irrelevant. So people need to just refresh their mind, go do their research, and now come up with a new conclusion of what's the best choice for America and the people that are suffering. And
So
anyway,
campaigns are like a canvas, and campaigns are about communication, right? So think about the Biden canvas. We know the things that are on that canvas now. 4 years ago, it was relatively blank. It just had a picture of his old office in the Senate and his little West Wing front door of his office, and the ice cream machine that was next to his office, right?
Yep.
Not a whole lot there in comparison to the canvas that had been painted with Trump. So you think about Biden's canvas now, even though he's relatively irrelevant, you have to then place that behind Kamala Harris's canvas, which is relatively blank in comparison to what Trump has achieved. That's his new canvas for 2024, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And this is going to be, and I've said this before, a common sense election. People are going to gravitate as that plane of hers hits the ground and September and October roll in, and they're going to go, don't like it, 50 plus one, like it. And they're going to go over here. And I even said this morning to a colleague, even if I'm wrong and we don't flip Montana, which I've said for 2 years we will, along with Ohio and West Virginia, we already have the Senate 52-48. The momentum of those down ballot races flows into the House of Representatives, which again tells me we'll extend our leadership, or excuse me, our majority in the House. And that flows down from the top of the ticket, i.e. this common sense election. Because the world is on fire domestically and otherwise, voters are going to reject that. Just look at the test that she failed last night with Joe Biden on the tarmac at Andrews with these hostages that came home, these pawns in this political game we play, unfortunately. And she blew it. She couldn't be a leader. She couldn't say anything that was convincing like a leader. She had to start moving her hands all around because she can't think clearly and precisely about what she wants to say because she doesn't fucking believe in anything.
Yep.
Okay? I mean, you saw what I wrote. Russian prisoner swaps don't fucking matter to people.
Right.
Kill terrorists, don't release them. If she said something, Rick, as matter of factly and Don, like Trump did at NABJ, and said DEI is bullshit, you guys know it, Merritt, not Melanin, right? And I'm talking about pragmatic responses like, we should be doing these things, bing, 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 like that. Biden gave her the opportunity to speak, and she fucking failed, right?
Just like Trump was given the opportunity and he failed. Like
But that's your perspective. I mean, I don't believe he did. Okay.
What did he really say?
But by showing up and telling these guys
by showing up, that's a good okay. Fair enough.
And then saying,
we'll agree to disagree on that.
I didn't know until recently she was black, because guess what? Until recently, she just began identifying as black. That's fucking bullshit. I'm not going to identify as Italian because I have an 18% of my DNA.
But he just went down to their level to play the race game.
Right.
Like, that's what we want to get away from.
But I look at it as he communicated.
I look at it as, why are we doing that? Like,
this is bullshit.
like, this is ridiculous. Who gives a shit what she is? Like,
That's
why
what he said.
Yeah.
No, he said he went on about how, well, I don't know if she's Indian and she started becoming black. Like, I think there's a
Well,
better
he
answer,
threw
but
that back.
we'll
He
agree
threw that back
to
at them,
disagree. And that's where we'll
okay,
leave that.
that's all right.
Okay.
But
So-
my point, though, is she had a concrete opportunity last night to lead, and she failed.
Yes.
And,
Yeah,
Here's the thing, okay? And everybody will be able to recognize this. This is the pulse of
Right.
America, okay?
I believe, yes.
You need to take the pulse of America, regardless of policy, okay?
What does that look like, though, Rick?
I still think that there is going to be a high amount of pageantry with the voting as opposed to policy.
yeah.
But if you put your pulse on America, are we more like lions or are we more like possums? And what I mean by that, does America want a leader who's a bully? Or does America want a leader who is going to continue getting bullied by the world? Like, make no mistake, we are being bullied by the world right now. Biden is a joke. Kamala is a joke. Every major superpower sees us as a joke. And this is the difference between people in America who have been in a fight and who have not.
Mm-hmm.
If you've never been in a fight,
You don't know.
you're going to take a pacifist angle. Bullies are bad. But if you've been on the end of an ass kicking, you know it's sometimes nice to have that bully to bully the bullies.
Or given an ass
Trump is
kicking.
a bully. Make no mistakes. Trump is a bully. And right now, America needs a bully to get back to where we want to be. So are we going to be lions or are we going to be possums and lay down dead and hope that the world will just ignore us and not eat our live carcass?
Agreed.
Yeah, so
That's what leaders are about.
Here's a take on that real quick. So the Russian prisoner swap bullshit, right? Putin took advantage of the weakness of Biden and pulled this off and said, I want these convicted murderers, and you can have these guys I snatched off the street who didn't really do anything, so fuck you. Guess what? Trump loses the 2018 midterms by the House flipping. Senate didn't flip, but the House flipped, right? Well, less than a month later in December, Paul Whelan got snatched off the fucking street in Moscow and was in prison for 5 fucking years. So what I wrote earlier about kill terrorists, don't release them, not only applies to Gitmo, where we gave these scumbags a plea deal, a fucking plea deal.
Yeah. Yep.
And allegedly, the White House didn't know about it until a day and a half ago, which is total fucking bullshit. Okay. But with Jake Sullivan, who's really a press secretary, it wouldn't surprise me because he's a moron. But my point is Trump has to go in and end that practice once and for all, even though it happened to him at a point of weakness, because Putin pulls this bullshit all the time. And so does Iran.
Can I make a quick point though about this plea deal? And this is the one thing that, if ever I had any doubts about Biden or Trump, it just crystallizes the problem with Biden and his administration. They love to deflect. They're deflecting on the economy now by blaming the Fed and Powell. I heard an administration spokesman today say with regard to this plea deal, he says, well, we didn't know about it. We weren't involved in it. And he used these words. He said it was a military, it was an independent convening military authority that made this deal out of the Department of Defense. First of all, that reminds you a lot of Al Gore and the controlling authority and all that nonsense. But it's clear deflection. And oh, by the way, last time I checked, don't we have a defense secretary who heads up DOD? my question is, what did he know? But nobody asked that question because we accept the BS out of the White House and we just move on to the
100%.
next abomination. I mean, it's beyond outrageous.
Did you see Jake Sullivan doing his best Mike Myers impression when he was I'm getting verklempt, and he like put his hand inside his coat jacket, talk amongst yourselves, while he was
Right.
trying to like force tears. I was
Yeah.
like, oh my god, you are the epitome of what people think. Like they think of Pete Buttigieg and they think of Jake Sullivan when you say the word soy boy. Like
Soy
those
boy.
are them.
Yeah.
Like if you take them out of suits and you get them in their regular clothes, like
Right.
man buns and Birkenstocks, the whole 9 yards. Like, give me a break. Like, he couldn't even force out a tear. This guy, unreal.
So, in the time we've got left, Steph, what do you think about that? Leadership. We want lion. We want a lion or a sheep in the White House.
Well, right now I got this on my thing,
There
and
you
it's a
go.
lion. So, and
That's
it's your
very good.
job to wake the sleeping lions. That's my job right now. So,
There you go.
as of right now, we do have a lion. That's Trump, and all these others are little sheeples, and they need to, wake up.
I love that word. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Parting, Don, what do you think, man?
Well, again, I'll keep going over. And again, I don't have any real insights more than anybody else. I like Rick's lion analogy because I think it's something that everybody
Perfect.
gets, and it's no accident that you have more males, and particularly black males, gravitating to Trump. It's because of that. It's like, well, hold on a second. You know what? Hey, I'm not for that. I can't get with this indecisive leadership that doesn't want to stand up and really deliver a blow. Like Trump or not, he's going to do that, or at least he's going to make people think that he might do that. And that it's like a pitcher in baseball that you fear because you're not sure if he's ever going to throw you that spitter. He's got it in his arsenal, but he might just give it to you. So you're swinging, assuming every time he throws something, it's going to be the spitter. So I just think that Trump will move things in the right direction. And again, the Democrats really have no answer. They're just expecting people to keep buying the same old crap they've been dishing out since 2000 and hoping that'll work again. I just don't think black voters, by and large, they're not going to get to those numbers. And without that, Democrats will lose.
Well, if you were to look at what Trump's past in Trump's past, he's helped rebuild, slums, New York. He's also been from my understanding, he's very generous with the people that work for him and is very giving. And there was one instance that I remember in Florida where I believe it was Trump's limo. It broke down, and there was a gentleman that gave him a ride to where he needed to be. And I think Trump gave him a car or, gave him some money or something, or he paid his house off.
Something like that. I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
Something like that. And so if you were to and then also Trump was friends with, is it Muhammad Ali? Is that the boxer?
Yeah.
And was really good friends with him, and they have built a really good relationship, and he had spoken highly of Trump. And so if you were to go off of his track record and who he really does genuinely care about, and if black voters were to look at those things and then compare the things that Miss Harris has done in contrast, I think that is your decision maker. That's the fine line.
Well, he's a celebrity magnet, that's for
That
sure.
comes out like whenever people talk about Trump being racist. Like let's just hop back in the time machine once again and go back to the 80s when the most powerful black individuals were hand in hand with old Trump, talking about Don King, talking about Muhammad, talking about Mike, because they were fighting at his casinos. Like,
Yep.
Absolutely.
rappers weren't it. They weren't it. Hollywood elites weren't it. Back then, Mike Tyson was one of the most powerful, reputable names on the planet. And people loved Trump. Like, I'm not going to say that he doesn't have some shady track record. That we can debate another time, but I haven't seen any um outward racism in terms of I'm doing this bad thing because of the color of somebody's skin. It's
But then
always because of money and power. Like if he can be if a stone can be thrown at him, it's because of his choices when trying to get accumulate more money and power. It's the racist thing, it
jealousy.
just falls flat for me
It
at
comes down to
least.
jealousy too. People want what he has and they can't have it because they don't work hard.
He's a celebrity
Yep.
magnet, always has been. Did you guys get to see the picture of him carrying the torch in the previous Olympics?
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, all the way back to the 70s, obviously. I mean, there was a whole arc of celebrity stuff.
What was it?
And again, that's why Rick,
I have a quote from Obama. You want to
able to
hear
look
it?
at the media and deal with the media knowing exactly what their DNA is because he's helped craft it in many respects as a celebrity over a 50-year period, right? I mean, it's just phenomenal.
Wait.
Yeah. I will say in that whatchamacallit, in the journalist panel that he was on, like calling her nasty and pointing out her whole purpose of being the antagonist. Like she went in there and just wanted to get some clickbait. And
Oh yeah, the chick from
you know,
NBC. Yeah,
yeah, and the ABC one. Wasn't she
the
from
one in the
ABC?
blue dress.
Yeah. Wasn't I
Is she
thought she
from
was
ABC? I thought she was from NBC. My bad. Whatever.
well
They're all
it
in the
doesn't
snake pit.
yeah. Regardless, she went in there with that attitude of I'm going to make myself visible by being
Yeah,
agitating
gotcha
lives.
questions.
And she did. And that's why I said that she accomplished her goal. Like
Excuse me.
that's what she wanted to do. She accomplished it. Trump was able to accomplish some things in his own way by calling that out. And I think by calling that out, if people can focus on that part of it, going like,
Mm-hmm.
look, I went into this ring with one hand tied behind my back, and then I got to the fighter and the ref tied the other one behind my back. And I was still able to headbutt my way out of it. So
Right.
props
Could
to
you?
him for doing that. And, it goes back to the are we going to be lions or are we going to be lambs? And I'm a lion, so I'm going lion.
One
Steph,
quick.
what were you gonna say?
Oh,
What were you
sorry.
gonna say?
Well, I was just imagine Trump and Kamala in the same room debating one another. And I don't know if that debate was supposed to come down here where I'm at or not, still or not. But man, that
Which
would
I
be
have a
entertaining.
question about after Don, and I want to ask Mark first, but I
Yeah,
do
buddy.
want to ask the panel this question.
Okay.
Cool.
Just real quick, going back to Trump at that NABJ situation, he did make a point that Republicans should follow up on with the question that he asked. He asked, "What is DEI?" And because Democrats don't want to define it, the person on that panel deflected by saying, "Well, you know what it is. It's just like asking a Democrat to defend affirmative action. They never want to do that. They'll talk about the virtues of it, but they won't defend what it actually is." So I think the Republicans should take that
What do
cue
you
from Trump
mean, Don?
just on that question.
It's diversity, equity, inclusion.
Right.
That's
That's what she
the
said.
definition of it.
Yeah, of course.
But what
You
is
know?
that?
It is what we say it is. It is that.
Yeah.
But when they have to explain it and they have to lay it out that we want black people in particular to get
That's
something
where
that they didn't earn. That's it.
That's where I wanted him to
Yeah, correct.
lay that haymaker on her. proverbially.
Oh, you mean like the Algerian guy
Yeah.
who beat up a chick?
Oh, boy.
Not like the Olympics.
Okay.
I'm saying
All right.
proverbially, that poor Italian woman. He had a chance to be like, no, that's the acronym. What's the actual definition? Tell me
Mhm.
what
Right.
it is. And instead, it was a quick squabble where he turned and, he went a different route. I'm just saying, for me personally, uh, I would have stuck right on that. But I love confrontations, so um, that might be where we differ. But my question for you
Yeah.
guys is this, because I heard Steph talking about this, and you keep hearing because Republican media is getting and the pundits are getting so worried about this so-called sugar high and all the positive press that Kamala's getting, that she's going to be running away with the headlines and her star's just going to keep rising. And they want Trump to debate Kamala like tomorrow, and they want him to debate her as many times as possible. My question is, do you guys think it would be better for Trump to debate Kamala early and often, 2+ times, or do you think that he should only do it once a month before the election? And Mark, I'll start with you.
I personally think, from my professional opinion, that it should be early and often. They should have a debate right after the Democrat convention. They should have one in September. They should have one in early October, because the more the American people who are, again, coming home from vacation, getting their kids in school, both college as well as public school or private, and getting back to their jobs, will have more exposure to the actual issues coming out of the mouths of the candidates in a forum relative to questions, etc., and answers repeatedly instead of a one-off. I think it gives the advantage to the American public to have that kind of exposure.
Okay.
And I do want to tell you guys one other thing, that I have a feeling that they're gonna float to Chicago. They're gonna do their little yakety yak, everything's cool, one of us, we are the world bullshit, right? What I don't believe the Democrats will do in Chicago, Don, and really for everyone, is she's not gonna go visit the hood in
Oh, of
Danny
course
Davis'
not.
congressional
You'll
district in
get killed
South.
in the hood.
Okay, she's not going to do that unless she's doing it in Wisconsin, saying, "Oh, it's really a shame down there in Chicago," right? Just like she did with El Paso versus Brownsville, Texas.
So
And you can
fake.
see it in the facile bullshit, um, fast forward pack commercial that just came on here, where it's all word salad, right?
Mhm.
However, I do believe that Donald Trump will go in, hold a forum with those families that have been displaced in Chicago by illegal immigrants that
Mhm.
Kamala and Biden are responsible for, with fucking solutions similar to opportunity zones, which he created in his first term, similar to the money he put into HBCUs, a tax break that rose everyone's boat upward, etc., including more so blue collar workers, and closing the border and getting those people out of those communities so that those monies can go to those individuals. I do believe that will absolutely happen.
Okay. So that
Anyway,
was your professional opinion. I guess, what
yeah,
is your personal opinion
my
then?
personal opinion is the more the better, so that everyone who doesn't do what I do for a living and doesn't live it, breathe it, yada, 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 can go, shit, I didn't see that one. Oh, there's another one. Let me go watch that. And then
Mhm.
there's another one after that. And in between those three times, so there's 4 segments, the after, and then right before voting, you've got an opportunity to make up your mind and see what's really going on. I think it would be terrific. And
So
I think
you're
she would fail
professional.
all 3 times, and Trump would win disproportionately.
So your professional and your personal opinion are the same.
They are at this point. They are at this point because it's common sense.
Yeah.
This is a common sense
Noted.
election, guys. That's what this is going
Makes
to come
sense.
down to.
Steph,
I feel like at this point, the more the merrier, because she just isn't able to talk at all, it seems like, or just every time she is in the camera, she fails in some way or form. And I feel like with her being in Trump's presence, it would be elevated even more so with like how he can call her out. And so I'm like, bring it. This more the merrier for this one. There are instances, like for instance, Lauren Bobart. Did I say it? Her
Bobo,
name, Bobart.
Bobo. We call
yeah.
her Bobo on the Hill.
So he didn't show up to a debate. When I was on the campaign trail a couple of years ago, and but it was justified for her not to show up in the sense that he was a completely illegitimate candidate. There's no reason to even debate him.
He was a bozo. That guy was a bozo.
He was.
Yeah.
And then he hired his son, who was like 17, to be his
his surrogate
co-manager or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
what?
And they're like, why doesn't he have school? Doesn't he have to go to high school? He's like, oh, well, he's getting work experience, and this is just. I'm like, okay.
The minor child can talk better than the adult. Yeah, that was.
But she didn't show that.
Look at Rick.
French. That's like that French woman who had the 28-year-old to be the heir apparent. I was like, what? What the hell is a 28-year-old doing? Like, if I saw that, I'd be like, all right, I may agree with you, but you're.
But
you're
it was
trying
weird
to
because
a 17-year-old. Give me a break.
You know what's funny is I was there and I was listening to him talk because he showed up, but she didn't. And I just kept listening. I was like, oh my God, this is a dud. He's terrible. Oh, and then he said that. And then I look at his son. I'm just like, are we in like delusional land here? But
did he identify as something older? Like, did he identify as a 30-year-old?
Maybe.
That might have helped. Okay, Don.
Maybe.
Same question.
He identifies as a 30-year-old.
Well, obviously, I think the more, the better. For this reason only. At some point, there is going to be a Bernie Shaw, Michael Dukakis moment with Kamala Harris. She's going to get asked a question that's going to kind of fry her brain because she's not going to know which side to be on. So she'll go instinctively to the hard left, and that will just eviscerate her candidacy. I don't care if it's on immigration or abortion. You could ask her. Somebody needs to ask her the question: at what point during a pregnancy is a woman not allowed to terminate her pregnancy? And don't give me the it should be between a woman and her doctor. So if you're telling me that, then if it's between a woman and her doctor, they could go all the way up to the 39th week or at the time of birth. Tell us where you draw the line. Her brain will explode. I'm looking. So again, more debates. She's gonna give you that one moment. Trump's gonna be Trump. I'm at peace with whatever he does. I am. I'm buying it. Sorry. So he's gonna do it, and he's gonna make some gaps, or he's gonna overstate something or whatever. I get it. Everybody else gets it. During 2016, people were saying after the election, and as to why people kind of missed what was happening. Most people who end up supporting Trump do not take him literally. They don't. They get the point. So when he talks about things and with some hyperbole, they get the idea to begin with. So again, but for Kamala Harris, she thinks too much. She's always recalculating, what her response is going to be, given the audience, and then given the circumstance. So it's going to happen. They have more debates. Yep. I think it'll happen in just one debate, But the more opportunity you give her to do that, the more she will implode.
Well, I don't understand why people that dislike Trump aren't more accepting of the entertainment value. Like when you have a Megan the Stallion coming out and twerking at Kamala's fundraiser, talking about uh, C word this and shake my P word that, and all your typical female hip hop tropes. She was all in. And you could tell that Ozempic has done a number on her. So shout out to Ozempic. For real. I mean, she had to have lost
Now
at
you
least
just made me think about the stupid commercial and the jingle. I hate that.
Yeah.
So Mark, you're, professionally, you're one of the smarter risk assessors that I know in terms of politics and
That's a
Thank
good
you.
thing.
pretty much overall.
That's
Um,
good.
are you? It sounds like everybody here is more convinced that Kamala is going to give a word salad
Yep.
than Trump taking the bait, looking like a mean old man with this poor victim woman. Um,
I would agree.
my concern is that the more times you get him out there, the higher the probability that he's going to do something that will be clickbait for all of the lambs that we were
Valid.
talking about to get a little bit feistier. The ones that were supporting Biden and then decided I'm not going to vote in this election because it's a joke, because Biden's a joke. Give them a reason to come back out, and that's one of my biggest concerns. And I'm wondering, like, I think that it's better when I hear you guys talk about it to put Kamala front and center. But I can't get the image of Biden being knocked out with one haymaker out of my mind and be like, if that came 2 weeks before the election, like, game over. Game over. Like, all you need is one punch. Mike Tyson, first round, first, second, knockout.
Uppercut to the jaw. Boom.
Yeah, and instead of giving her more time to uh, play the victim, but then it goes back to finger on the pulse. Is America more worried about victimhood ideology or more worried about policy? And I think we're in a policy moment. So, Mark, maybe you can tell me this, since you know numbers like you do. Are there more women registered to vote than men, or is
Yep.
it the other way around?
There are more females registered to vote because there are physically more female numbers than there are males. However, it really comes down to the following buckets. So you have Trump has moved his GOP base. When you ask the question, should he be the nominee? Will you vote for him, etc., from the 60s, low 70s into the upper 90s. So that consolidation has taken place. With Carmela or Mamala or whatever we're going to call her, I just call her hashtag miss second place, is she's yet to get that kind of consolidation. So let's assume that she matches it, right? You're still going to have a number of Democrats, Don Juan's former friend or current friends, other people that are going to go, yeah, not ready for prime time, and they're not going to vote. They may not go and vote for 45 to be 47, but that isn't who makes up decisions about who wins and who loses in this country. It's independents. And right now, the Democrats only have 34% of independents going, thumbs up, we're with you.
Oh, because that was going to be my next question.
Hey,
Well,
fireworks.
I'll kind of go there.
Females than males
I want
for
fireworks.
Right?
hashtag comma
You gotta
duh.
hold them up. You gotta hold them up. So that's the problem, Rick, is we're trending more with independents and young than she is in
Good.
terms of the ability to continue that, again, as she's more defined, as the issues come out, hence the reason pragmatically to have more debates, because I mean, geez Louise, guys, what is she gonna defend other than
Nothing.
Joe Biden's record, which is indefensible? Nobody likes it anyway because she doesn't have one.
She's a stupid woman for
So that's the problem.
doing all
That's a
this shit.
conundrum.
I mean,
She's stupid.
personally, if there were only one debate, like I'm gonna enjoy watching Kamala try to be cool, and if I were once again handling the campaigns, like I would just do satire with it. Like I'd be like,
We
wow,
could do some Mad Lip reading.
so cool. Like
We should
look
do
at her,
that.
she just gets it. Thumbs up. Here's the next question that I have, and I'm sorry to take this, but I really had questions about this because Trump mentioned this in an interview. I think it was maybe with Ingram. I can't remember. But he said that Christians have a bad track record of not voting. Is that true? I thought Christians were pretty good voters.
It depends.
It
Yeah, depends.
It just
it depends.
depends, but it can be very challenging. Like I noticed that in Colorado, where a lot of people did not show up to the voting polls that were like considered to be affiliated. And
What?
so imagine, like it can be a little hard to get, that group
What the
to show up.
Are you
But
serious?
what it is,
I would never guess that ever. Like I heard that and I was go ahead, Steph. Continue.
so here, let me give you an example, and this is a firsthand experience. So I literally brought the Heidi RV, like it was 2 weeks before the election. I brought the Heidi RV, it's all decked out and everything, and I parked it in it's a mega church, New Life Church in Colorado Springs. And that's the church that I identify with, and that's where I go to most. And it is the biggest, it's the biggest one in that area.
Yep.
And it's very affiliated in everything with, nationally. And I showed up, and it happened to be an election conversation of discernment on voting. And I show up, I have my Heidi shirt on, I got the Heidi RV. And before I go in, I timed it so that I could at least hit the first service where they leave so they could see the RV. And so then I could go to the second service and I would show up in my shirt. And then the second service would see, and then I'm getting 2 services with maybe like 2,000 plus people. So I'm getting some traction. This
Great
is the first
grassroots
thing
politics. Good move.
The first thing that happened when I was there was I had a lady knock on the RV door. I'm just kind of getting set up and everything. She had a stroller with 2 kids. And she said, I want to ask you about what her position is on abortion. And I was like, well, and Heidi was, essentially okay with abortion up until a certain point, and placating to the Colorado,
moderates.
it's, Colorado's liberal. However, Colorado's messed up in the sense that you can abort a baby all the way up until birth, and that's fucked up. Anyways, this lady, I'm thinking, oh, she's like gonna go in the direction of, oh, well, I'm not gonna vote for her because she's for abortion. But actually, this lady that just left church was amped up from the political conversation from the pastor and asking for discernment and telling you to go to the Lord and ask him to be guided and having prayer for our leaders and yada yada. she came out and she asked me that question, and I had no idea what the service was. And she was like, I'm for abortion, and I don't want Heidi to take it away, and I'm not going to vote for her if she's going to try for that. And I was like, I'm at church. And then I walked in, and I had my shirt on, and it was as if no one had an idea who she was. It was as if people had no idea that there was an election going on, and it's because it wasn't necessarily a presidential election year, and so people aren't paying attention as much as they should. And there is a couple other factors that I don't necessarily need to go into right now. However, I feel like majority of the churches, they don't get involved. They stay lukewarm in that arena. They don't take a stance, and their followers follow suit. And that is a fundamental problem with America, that we are not able, or we don't have leaders, pastors that are making and helping guide people in that direction. That makes sense.
Well,
I guess
I'll tell you
the next
this.
would be interesting to see how it's broken down by
Well, I can
Christian
tell you.
faith,
I can tell you how they do it.
because Catholics,
Trump.
I know we don't shy away from talking about politics
Oh hell
in
no.
sermons, out of sermons. So go ahead.
So Trump initiated the process in 2015 down in San Antonio, Texas. Jared Kushner and Brad Parscale, who he hired to begin to micro-target voters using social media and so forth and so on. You know, they always talk about the Obama coalition, and they use fucking email and mobile numbers and all this bullshit in 08 and partially in 2012. That's a crock of shit. Okay. Trump went in and said, yeah, I'm serious. Let's get this done right. You know, like he's bidding on a building because he knows what the hell he's doing. And he put a team together and said, Jared, get your ass down to Texas for 6 weeks and get this built. And so they hired the right people to do it. And it was funny because I saw a documentary recently on Zuckerberg and Silicon Valley, and these guys. Remember the video of the Google freaks in the 2016 aftermath after after Dum Dum over here lost, going, "We're never gonna let it happen again," and they were crying and shit, right? Trump, they knew this, and they wouldn't admit it for years. Trump went in, learned micro-targeting, all the elements to reach all these different segments: barbecue eaters, Ford F-150s, everybody, all Christians, everybody, right? And went in and did that and just pulled the wool right over Silicon Valley's eyes and the tech companies' eyes, and they're like, "Fuck," like that. He won. And they would not admit it, and they still won't admit it to this day. Anyway, it was in this documentary that was on Netflix, which is fucking hilarious.
What
And
was it
so
called?
that's how they do it. So they do it, Steph, Rico, Don.
It just depends.
But you also have to count on a pastor being political, and they just
Right.
typically disproportionately won't do it for their flock. Some will.
Yeah,
I
That's
mean, I don't mind that. I don't want pastors to be preaching politics. Like
right.
No.
it's not the place for it. But you would think that people that are such strong-willed stalwarts in their ideology would be the first people lining up to let their ideologies play out in a way. Like that's one way that they can affect change. Um, I had, gosh darn it, what was the name of the election? Or pardon me, the documentary.
On Netflix, I can't remember. I'll find it and I'll email it to you. Everybody, look at the text box I just sent you. Just FYI. I think I did 120 this time, so just FYI.
Copy.
But I'll send it to you. But that is something that is now a technique, like door knocking staff, like doing what you did on the ground, t-shirt on into an environment, etc. And that's very good strategy. That's one of the things I like about you, because you're a good strategic thinker in that regard. And so and not many people do that unless they're told to do it. by somebody that knows that that's a good idea. So good on you.
That was my idea.
I didn't
Anyway,
get Hans Gruber the last part of this. I didn't know if
Gruber.
Don
This
Juan
part-
had any questions. He sounded. You looked like you had a comment, Don, and then I want to get to his final questions.
Hans Gruber.
My quick point is about religion and politics. I mean, I've grown up as a Baptist fundamentalist. I mean, I must have been to maybe 100, tent revivals before I ever saw an NFL football game. So it was like ingrained in our culture. On Sunday, you spent all day in church. There was Sunday school, regular service, and then you get a break, so to speak, and you come back at like 4:30, 5 o'clock for the evening service. So you put in a good 7 or 8 hours, and to me, there still should be kind of a wall in this regard. I think that fundamentalists, Christians, and the like, they get it. We're observant. We know what's going on generally, and we tend to vote based on what our faith tells us is necessary to do in that arena. I think by and large, though, we do tend to reject people coming into the church for political purposes. Let me back up. To come into the church trying to convince people of something political. I just think that, and again, I can't speak for every type of denomination, but for Christians, it's a difficult thing. And oh, by the way, the Democrats violate this notion all the time. We've seen it recently.
All the time.
I mean, they'll run to a black church and start
I hate that.
preaching the gospel when they don't believe it to begin with, and B, they're just trying to get people to vote. And like I said, I think you're always going to get that. There's going to be some tension in that regard. Fundamentalist Christians know what's going on. They will vote. And oh, by the way, they will vote for a guy like Trump, understanding his failures and everything else, simply because they want to get a certain result. And they know they're not going to get it from Democrats.
Well, people are desensitized to it, which is a component to this. So perhaps that needs to be factored in how to reignite
Yeah.
momentum.
So another quick question, and it's a two-part question. One, is there an app that can naturally shave off my turkey neck? Because I look here and you guys are like,
Oh, stop.
so. And two is, if there isn't, like, what do you guys do? Is there like some kind of stretch or exercise thing to kind of
This.
thin it out? Like, how do
We
you?
that.
will.
I
we
like. I
will
know
go
I
into
naturally have that
Scrape,
sort
scrape.
of Japanese sumo round face. Like, I'm a round face. There's
100%.
no beating around that bush. But specifically when I'm exercising and not doing massive cardio, like I start to like,
Hey, I got one for you. Are you ready?
yeah.
It's actually in your tongue, and you put your tongue to your chin, and it works this.
No.
Mm.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you
More
go.
vegetables, fewer carbs. In the time that we have left,
Thank you.
first of all, I want to thank everybody for today because I think this is a terrific show, and I hope the audience appreciates it and likes it as well.
You're welcome,
Any
audience.
parting thoughts? Mine very quickly is she's going to be in second place. We're going to pick up 18 to 20 House seats, flip at least 4 Senate seats, and 45 is coming back to be 47. We'll see. We still have 95 days left. However, I still remain very confident at this point. Rick, any parting thoughts from you?
Yeah, the Olympics has become the Kamala of sports events.
Uh-huh.
I will say that
100%.
they don't mean anything anymore, and it's so sad. Like, I used to wake up and be excited to look at these events that I don't think about ever in 4 years, but I'm like, yeah, go America. But France and how they have handled these
Oh,
Olympics and
horrible. So sad.
watching men beat women physically,
Mhm.
like violently, and then defend it is ridiculous. Like, it's reached that level of global lunacy that the only way to change is for the bottom line to be hurt. And I'm not even tuning into the basketball games. Like, when did 3-on-3 basketball become an Olympic event? Like,
Well, let me ask you something. And I ran in this event. What
Yeah.
the fuck are we doing a 4x400 relay with men and women for? What the hell?
because
So we're
Extreme
trying to go in a
extreme.
direction. It's all a bottom line agenda, and we
Yeah,
know
don't give
that
us some
Olympics
bougie
are a part
bullshit.
of it. Whoever's been on the panel, we know that they have been doing subliminal messaging with their stupid opening and closing, things, the organization, and we know that they are in line with the agenda, with what is
100%.
trying to transpire here in America, and we the world can stand up to it and say no. First of all, second of all, they make money off of the viewerships and everything. And I find it funny how God has a sense of humor, where the power went out and only a church was up the next day.
That was beautiful. That
So
was beautiful.
perhaps it was meant to be for everyone to see, but it's really sad how all these athletes devote their life to the sport to go and compete against the best in the world. And so perhaps there needs to be a reform.
Well,
Don
hopefully
Juan,
by
quickly.
2028 in LA, the home of wokeism, they'll do
Can't
it. But
wait.
don't hold your breath. Don Juan, any parting thoughts, brother?
Real quick with the Olympics, I was intrigued when they added breakdancing because I wanted to bring back my old palazzo pants and my Jerry curl, throw down some cardboard, and compete.
Right.
That's
Get your
my call.
activator out. Give me some activator, baby.
As
Well,
long as they
I
come back
still
to
got
dancing.
tons of activator just in case.
You just like spray it on your arm hair now.
Pretty much.
Jam on it. Jam on it. Jam on
You're
it.
good.
Jam on
Jam on
You
it.
guys are awesome. Have a fantastic weekend. We're gonna try to do these twice a week. I head to Wyoming in 9 days for vacay, and we'll probably kind of start it then, doing a out of the DNC week out from the DNC fiasco convention, and then we'll do another one, and then we'll kind of go from there. All right.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
good.
Great to talk to y'all. Toodles.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Bye,
Bye.
guys. And it's just me. Well, now that we've got them out of here, let me just really tell you how I feel about everything, okay? First and foremost,